Gemma from Concrete Gems Crochet, and today I want to make this really cute snowdrop pot with you. So this pot was inspired by my mum, who we call Nana, so I've called it Nana's Snowdrops, who really loves snowdrops, and I thought it was a really lovely thing to make for her. It's a great gift for Mother's Day, birthdays, that kind of thing, and it's super cute too. So come and make one with me. Let's dive right in. We're going to need quite a few different supplies for this project, so I'll go through them all now. The yarn I'm using is Cedar Happy Cotton. It's a double knitting cotton, and you get 20 grams in a little ball. I think you can get bigger ones as well, but you'll only need the 20 grams one to make one pot of snowdrops. You get 43 meters and 47 yards in those 20 grams. I use 3 colors, so you'll need 3 colors: a green, a white, and like a brownie color for the soil. So I used this green, which is Treetop, and that's 780, and I used this brown, which is called Safari, which is 772, and then I also used some white, which is called Shower in 762 is the number. But you can use any cotton that you've got. You can use fine weight as well as DK weight, like a sport weight, or as well as a DK weight, and that will just make your snowdrops slightly smaller. So there's not really a critical tension for this project. My snowdrops come out about 50% larger than actual snowdrops using the DK weight. So if you wanted them more closer to actual size, then using a sport weight yarn will help with that. So with my DK yarn, I used a 3mm crochet hook. So you see I've gone down 1mm from the recommended hook, and that helps get tighter stitches for the snowdrops. So if you're using a fine weight yarn, then I would recommend going down to a hook that's about 1mm smaller than the yarn recommends. Okay, so you'll also need the standard scissors and tapestry needle. So we've done those. Then you'll need some Florists wire. So mine comes in a packet like this, and you get these lengths, which are about 35 centimeters long, I believe. So you can get a packet of those in lengths, and then I'll show you how to use them later. You'll need some pliers. So I've got 2 different sorts of pliers. I've got a flat nosed one, and I've got round nosed ones, and these ones are really good for bending the top of your snowdrop stalk so that you can get a nice shape. I also use some Florist tape, which is this stuff here. This you wrap around the wire. I guess you could do without that. It's not essential, but I do actually use it. And then you'll need some Oasis or floristry foam, or whatever you like to call it. So I've got these circular ones. You can get them in any size rectangles, and then you can just cut them to size, and I need to cut mine to fit in my pot anyway. Which brings me on to the last thing. You need a pot. So I've got this pot, which is roughly 2.5 inches diameter across here and 3 inches tall. If yours is different, then you can adjust your snowdrops as you go along, so that's not a problem. So my finished snowdrops measure around 7 inches tall, including the pot. So they're about twice the height of the pot. But it really depends. You can make yours any height. You might make your stalks taller than mine or shorter. You might do it in a big dish. It's up to you. See how you get on. Okay, so the pattern's written in US terms, and I use US terms throughout. We're going to start by making the snowdrop flower, and we make the little green bud stalky bit. I think it's called a I can't remember what it's called. You know what I mean. The bit that joins the flower, that has the bud in it, kind of thing. So let's start with that, we're going to start with the green and we're going to make a magic ring. So this is how I do my magic rings. I make the yarn into a loop and cross it over, hold it together whilst I insert my hook, grab the yarn and pull it through. Then I'm just going to wrap the yarn around my hand so I get a bit of tension, and I chain 1 to secure it. Okay, and then we're going to do 4 single crochets into the magic ring, like so. There we go. And then I'm going to pull the end tight, and that will hold that tight like that. Our next round we're going to do the next 2 rounds actually, we're going to do single crochet in each stitch all the way around. So if you're not sure where to put your hook for the first stitch, just count back 1, 2, 3, 4, and we go into this one. And we're going to work in continuous rounds, so you might want to use some stitch markers. It can be a bit tricky getting into that first stitch. But I just use my nail and it works quite well. So I would use stitch markers to mark the first stitch of your round. And that's really handy. But as we're only doing 4, it's not too difficult to count. It's just a bit fiddly because we are only doing 4 stitches. Okay, so that's round 2 already. And you see I'm just kind of working it to get it to go that way round. So your tail end should be inside. Okay, so then I'm going to carry on and I'm going to do 4 more. So we're going into this funny looking stitch next. So this is now round 3. I'm sorry if my voice is a bit croaky. Yeah, I really wanted to film this, so I was like, I'm doing it regardless, even if I've got a croaky voice. And I'm trying to make sure I speak nice and clearly. I'm not using my external microphone today because I think it was making the sound go kind of like louder and quieter. So we're going to try it without and see if that's any better. Right, so that's round 3. As you can see, little stalky bit. Round 4, we're going to do 2 single crochets into each stitch. So we're still working in continuous spirals, so we don't need to join or anything. We just move on to the next stitch and put 2 single crochets into each stitch. Just be careful not to catch any of the other stitches as you're going. Whoops. That's 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So you can just double check to make sure you've got the right number of stitches. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Then we're going to slip stitch into the first stitch to join that, and then we're going to fasten off. So that's our first little bit done. Let's cut the yarn and pull that through. Okay, so that's the first part of your snowdrop done. Sorry about that, I went away. I was just going to get the snowdrop to show you. So this is this bit created now, and now we're going to move on to joining the petals. So we're going to join on our yarn A, which is our white colour. I didn't give them names before. And you can join it into the back back loop of any of these stitches. Okay, so just insert your hook into that back loop only of the last round. Grab the yarn and pull it through. And then we're going to chain 7. 4, 5, 6, 7. There we go. And then we are going to slip stitch into the second chain from the hook. Like so. Then we're going to do a half double crochet into the next 4 chains. 2, 3, and 4. So you should have 1 chain left now. And is that right? Yes, sorry, couldn't read my pattern. Then we're going to single crochet into the last chain. Okay. Then we're going to chain 1. We're going to slip stitch into the back loop of the next stitch on our bud. Okay, so we slip stitch into there. Then this is the tricky bit. So now we're going to turn, and we want to turn it the same way every time, okay, so that the petals lie the same way. And we're going to work back up the other side of our chain. Okay, so we're going to single crochet into that first one. You need to kind of make sure you can see them all. So you single crochet into that first chain where you had a single crochet already. Okay, I think I'm going in the wrong place now. It's a bit fiddly because you have to kind of twist it to get in there, but it does work. And then we half double crochet in the next 4. Okay, and then we are going to slip stitch into the next chain, which should be your last one. And then we're going to slip stitch into the first chain, which is the top. And you have to kind of wiggle a bit to get into that one. Oops, sorry. Hopeless. Oh, that's just the same one. Okay. And that is your first petal created. So then we need to fasten off. And then we're going to repeat that around. So we're going to rejoin our yarn into the next back loop. Watch out for where you slip stitched into your the end in the around the stalk, that slip stitch there. So make sure that you don't work into that instead of an actual stitch. So you might want to count backwards again. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So here's the loop I want to go into next. Okay, and rejoin your yarn, and we're just going to do exactly the same as we did before. So if you can't remember, rewind the video and watch it again. So we start with the 7 chains. 2, 4, 6, 7, and then we carry on doing the same all the way around. So you'll end up with 4 because each petal takes up two back loops as you go around. Okay, and then you'll have 4 lovely petals like this. I just want to say, make sure you go into the back loops. I think I went into the front loop of the second one when I was showing you. So these are the front loops around here, and the back loops are the ones like on the inside of your stem. So anyway, there are my 4 petals and lots of ends to weave in, which I will do shortly. But for the moment, let's move on. So these petals in Snowdrops, they're called tepals. Tepals. T-E-P-A-L-S. Anyway, and on the inside of a snowdrop, where is my one that I have, you get these inner tepals. So that is what we're going to make now. And we're going to use the white again, the yarn A to start with. And we're going to make a magic ring, as I did before. Okay. And then we're going to do 4 single crochets into the magic ring. So we've got 1, we've got 2, we've got 3, and we've got 4. Okay, so pull our end tight. This time we're going to slip stitch into our first stitch, but we're not going to fasten off. Oops, I'll get that in. So just slip stitch into there to join, and then we're going to join in our yarn B, our green. So this gets a little bit fiddly, okay, and you need to make sure that you don't slip stitch into the, no, stitch into the slip stitch, if that makes sense. And what we're going to do with our yarn B is we're going to slip stitch into each stitch around, okay. So remember we started where in that join, so that doesn't actually count. So this is the first stitch, which is tricky to get into. So we've got 1, and just slip stitch. Don't do them too tightly, otherwise it will pull too tight. 2, 3. Oops, I've split my yarn there. Try and get that sorted. Is that okay? Yep. 3 and 4. And I'm just going to pull my end a bit tighter now, because we're not going to be able to access it in a minute. Okay, so I've done the 4 stitches, and then we're going to slip stitch into that first one to join. So as you can see, it looks like we've got an extra stitch here now, but we haven't. That's just where we slip stitched to join the first time. So make sure you don't end up creating extra stitches is all I'm saying, really. So slip stitch into that one to join, and then we're going to rejoin our yarn A, or not rejoin it really, but pick it up again. You can fasten off yarn B now, actually. Save us having 2 balls hanging about. So tie that off and pull through your yarn A again, your white. Find that end and pull it tight. There we go. Okay, and then we're going to single crochet into the first stitch, or the next stitch. Then we're going to chain 1, single crochet in the next stitch. I did my slip stitches too tight, even though I told you not to. Golly, it's really stuck. There we go. Single crochet, chain 1, and we're just going to repeat that around. Single crochet and then chain 1. So you'll end up with 4 single crochets and 4 chain 1s, and it makes like a wiggly effect on the top of the inner teepole. Do I sound like I know what I'm talking about? I do like gardening, but I don't know the names of any of the flowers. Right, have we done them all? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. We have done them all. And then we're going to slip stitch into that first one to join. And that is the end of that. So we're going to, whoops, cut out yarn, fasten that off. Okay, like so. And we're going to join it onto our flower. So the way we do that is we use this inner, so this very first thread that we started with, and whoops, thread your needle, and we're just going to go up inside, and I want to catch some of the stitches though on the inside if I can before I come out in the center. Okay, like that. I don't think I caught anything then, just because otherwise it might come undone. So just catch a couple of stitches, it doesn't really matter where, and then come up through the middle at the top. Okay, and then you're going to find your middle of your flower, and you're going to thread that right up through the middle of there as well, just like that. And then you're going to give it a good pull, and it will go inside that first stalk. Okay, and then you can just go over a stitch and go back down inside, and make sure it's nice and tight, really tight, and then weave it in on the inside here. And that is your flower almost finished. So what we need to do now really is weave in all of these ends, because they are making it look like a bit of a nightmare. So you can go ahead and do that now, and I will see you when you have done that, and then we will move on to the leaves. Before we move on to the leaves, it's a good point now to decide how many flowers you want to make. I made 4, which fit nicely into my pot, and then when you have decided that, then you can decide how many leaves you want to make. So I would recommend 3 leaves per flower of different sizes, different heights, but you can do more if you prefer, or less, whichever. So we change the size or the length of the leaves by varying the starting chain, and we're going to chain basically any number you like, at least 14 chains. So slip knot on your hook first, and then just chain as many as you like, but it has to be more than 14, or at least 14. 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14. So I'll just show you with the shortest one for now, but you'll need to make quite a few anyway. So we are going to slip stitch into the second and the third chain from the hook. I'm going to work in the back bumps for this, but you can work in the normal bit if you prefer. So we slip stitch into those 2, like that. Then we're going to single crochet into the next 3 stitches. 1, 2, 3, and then we're going to half double crochet into every stitch until the last 3 chains. Okay, so that will be a different number depending on how many you did to start with, but just do it until you've got 3 chains left. 1, 2, 3, I need 1 more, and then in the last 3 chains we're going to do double crochets. Okay, and then we're going to fasten off, and that is a leaf created. So that's one of the very shortest leaves. I made some that were up to 20 chains long, but really play around and see how you like to do it. And we don't fasten off these ends here. We're going to leave those because we're going to use them to join them onto the stem. Right, onto the stem. We're going to make as many stems as we have flowers. So we need to take a piece of our wire. So as I said, I've got 35 centimeters or 14-inch long wire, and I cut each piece in half roughly to make my flowers. So to do that, I'm using my pliers, and I'm just going to cut them in half. Okay, so then I've got a length like that, about 7 inches long. So we're going to shape the wire now, and I'm going to use my round nose pliers, but obviously if you don't have those, use whatever you do have. And I want to make it like a snowdrop, so the classic snowdrop shape where they come up and they bend quite at an angle downwards again, and the flowers hang off the bottom. So what I'm just going to do is I'm just going to bend the wire gently around my pliers till I have a shape a bit like that. And yeah, you can make that bit as long as or as short as you want. Play around with what you like and see what you think looks best. And then what we're going to do is we're going to take the Florist tape. And mine's a bit old, but it still works fine. And you're just going to wrap the wire in the tape. Okay. Now, as I said, if you don't have Florist tape or you don't want to use it, that's completely fine, because you will be crocheting over the stem anyway, which I will do in a moment. So there we go, I've got to the end of that and my wire is nicely wrapped and it looks a bit more organic and natural, which I think really helps. So then we're going to use our green yarn again. And we're going to put a slip knot on our hook to start with, because that just makes it a bit easier to start crocheting. And we're going to crochet around the bottom of your stem. Now leave like a centimetre. I have to work out how to do it, forgotten. Yeah, leave a centimetre to start with, and just join it on to begin with a little slip stitch. Then you're going to grab the yarn, wrap it over, whoa, and pull through. It's a bit fiddly to start with, but once you get going with it, like so, then you can carry on all the way up your stalk. Okay, so it's try and keep them quite close together, otherwise you'll have a gap, but equally it's just organic, isn't it, and natural. So once you get to about ½ an inch or a centimetre below the bend, so here, I will stop, so about here, stop, and I'll show you what to do next. So what we want to do now is we want to create like the hood bit that goes over the top of the snowdrop stem. I don't know the words for it. And how we're going to do that is make 4 foundation single crochets, okay? So to do that, you chain 2, and then you insert your hook into ideally the back bump again of the first chain or the second chain from hook. Yarn over and pull through. Yarn over and pull through 1, which creates the chain part of the foundation single crochet, and yarn over and pull through 2. Then we're going to work back into that chain again, like this. Yarn over and pull through, yarn over, pull through 1, and yarn over and pull through 2. So that's 2 foundation single crochets. We go again, work into the chain that you just created. So that's this chain. So I'm going back into this chain, yarn over, pull through, yarn over, pull through 1, and then yarn over, pull through 2. Okay, and that is the end of that. So we're going to chain 1 to finish off and fasten off like so. I'll just pull that through. Maybe I won't pull that through. There we go, to fasten that off. Okay, and that's your little hoodie bit that goes over the top like so. So you need to make as many stems as you have flowers, of course, in exactly the same way as this. And then we can go and make our soil. So you need to measure your pot's diameter. And if your pot is different to my pot, then you're going to need to adjust the size of your soil. So you're going to either need to, if it's smaller, you need to make less rounds of, increase rounds of the soil. And if it's bigger, you'll need to make more increase rounds. So this is a standard amigurumi style of increase where we work in continuous rounds, and we start with 6 single crochet and then it increases by 6 every round. Okay, so it shouldn't be too difficult to adjust if you need to. So I'm going to start with obviously with my brown yarn, and I'm making a magic circle again, magic ring, and then I am going to work 6 single crochets into the ring. I'm not going to film all of this because it will be too boring. Okay, is that 6? 3, 2, 4, 6, yes. Pull our ends tight, and then we move on to round 2. As I said, we're increasing by 6 every time, so this round we're going to be doing 2 single crochets into every stitch. All the way around. So round 3 goes up to 18 stitches. So we do two single crochets in the first stitch, and then we do 1 in the next stitch, and we continue that repeat all the way around. So 2 in the next stitch, 1 in the next stitch, and we'll have 18 by the time we get round. Round 4 moves us up to 24 stitches, so we are going to do 2 single crochets in the first stitch, then 1 single crochet in each of the next 2, and then repeat 2 single crochets in the next stitch, 1 in each of the next 2. Round 5, that takes us up to 30 stitches after the end of round 5. So we do 2 single crochets in the first stitch, and then we do 1 in each of the next 3 stitches. So you can see the pattern forming now. 2 in the next stitch, then 1 in each of the next 3, and continue that all the way around. And then we move on to round 6, which is an increase again by 6 up to 36 stitches. So we do two single crochets in the first stitch, and then we do 1 single crochet in each of the next 4 stitches, and we continue that all the way around. Now this is our last round of increases for a pot size that is my pot size, and it is quite forgiving anyway, so if you do want to try it and see what happens, then that's completely fine. or you can measure yours and add a few extra rounds or leave a few rounds off, whichever you prefer. So I finished round 6, and as you can see it fits about in the top of my pot like that. So once yours is the same and fits in, you move on to the next round. So for me it's round 7, and what we're going to do is just work single crochet in the back loop of every stitch all the way around. So for us that's 36 stitches. Okay, once you've done that, we're now going to work some straight rounds, just working single crochets in each stitch around. So if you're doing the same as me, you're going to carry on up to round 15, okay? Up to round 14, sorry. So rounds 8 to 14 are single crochets in each stitch around, and then we do a final round which is single crochets in the back loops again, okay? So I think you can just carry on and finish off your soil now, and then I'll show you how to assemble it. Okay, so once you've finished making your soil and you've woven in all of your ends, it's time to start assembling. So you're going to take your foam, and you need to work out whether it's the right size. Obviously mine is too big, doesn't fit in my pot, so I need to cut mine, but luckily it's really easy to cut. You can just use any scissors and just cut through it like that to cut it to shape. So do that first. So it doesn't actually matter what your foam looks like, as long as it just fits in your pot like that. And then what we're going to do is take the soil bit that we've made. So I finished that off, did the 15 rounds. So you're going to pop that over your oasis and then pop the whole lot into your pot. And if yours is being a bit fiddly to get it to fit, a good trick is just to tie your yarn end round at the bottom to hold it onto the oasis, and then it will go into your pot much nicer and won't bulge, like so. There we go. So the soil is in now, ready for our snowdrops. Next, we're going to secure our leaves onto our stem. So what we're going to do is we're going to leave a little bit at the bottom of our stem for poking it into the soil, and we're going to tie them around the base, basically using our yarn ends, okay? So just start with one and tie it around. Just use a reef knot or whatever to tie it on, and then take a second one and position it so that it's round another side. If you're using 3, kind of try and make them go over a third. You can also put them a little bit higher up as well, which adds to the kind of natural layered effect that we're going for. And tie on the next one. Okay, so you see they then overlap like that, and then you've got the last one. This is my longer one, so I might put that a little bit lower down again. Find the ends for that one and tie that round, and then you're going to want to go ahead and weave in all of these ends now. You can, if you feel like you want your leaves to kind of join on for a little bit before they start bending over, then this is how you're going to do that now. So when you weave in your ends, sew your leaves on a little bit more as you go, okay? And then we are nearly there. So all that remains is to find our flower, and you need to poke that onto the end of your stick. You might want to use a little bit of glue to secure it, otherwise it might fall off, but they do tend to stay on quite nicely. And then take your soil and push your flower into your soil, and it should stand up like that and look really lovely. So you've got all of these ends to sew in as well, and obviously you want to make more snowdrops. 4 is a good number, I think, but make however many you like, and then I will come back and show you my finished snowdrops. Right, I just have one more to stick in and push down, and there are my snowdrops finished. So I think you'll agree they look pretty cute. I've finished doing mine, and you can just arrange them however you like. And there you have it. A lovely gift to give to somebody, I think. A nice decoration for the mantelpiece, bringing a bit of nature inside, which I always love. And they're pretty cute too, aren't they? So thank you very much for watching. I hope you've enjoyed this tutorial, and I hope to see you again soon for another Concrete Jams tutorial really soon. Goodbye.